Hey guys, it's Sarah and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So on today's video, I am going to be reviewing the third novel that I've read in this semester entitled No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. So before we move on to the story itself, I am going to tell you guys what I like the most about this book, starting from the extrinsic elements itself. First, we're going to talk about the cover of the novel. The cover of the novel, for some people, may think that the cover is way too simple, it's nothing special, but trust me, after you finish reading the book, you'll think twice and you'll change your mind. And then the cover for me is everything. Like the cover, this illustration really describe the story and the title. And the font selection is, for me, cool and aesthetic, even though I don't even know what kind of font is this, but I like it. And then the writing style that Osamu Dazai used in this novel is just a masterpiece. That's that I could say. And the way Dazai pour his ideas, it really is mesmerizing. So and before I continue with the story, I want to give like some kind of a trigger warning to you guys, because in this book there are lots of dark things going on, and if you are not at least 17 years old and you are easily triggered by things that have to do with someone's psychology, or you have trauma, or you've once sexually assaulted by someone, please do not watch this video. Pause the video right here, right in this duration, but do please like this video. Give this video a like, because I really need it for my score. And yeah, okay, so moving on to the story itself. Basically, this novel tells about Obayozo, a 24/7 years old guy who has an unsupportive dad about him wanting to be an artist. And then he is once abusive, Yozo's dad, and he was actually abused by his both male and female servants at his house, but he tend to kept his mouth shut, because he be thinking, what's the use if I tell this event to someone that I trust? What's the use of telling it? It's no use of that. So he be quiet about that event. And then he be having a mental disorder because he oftenly feels anxiety and depressions. Those things are the triggers that left him feeling so emotionally distant from society, people, or basically human. And those are the beginning of him where he questioned his existence as a human being and entering his clowning phase. Plus, he met his problematic and negative influence friend, his an art friend from college named Haruki, who brought him into this darker side of the world, to this other side of the world where he doesn't even know existed, and he doesn't even planning on get into that world. And then it makes things even worse. Those are some of the things that makes Yozo doing a 5 times suicide attempts. Starting from Yozo's childhood era, the very first thing that caused him question about society and the idea of human is back when he was still live with his crazy rich father. He also lived with his servants, and he saw this event where his servants was being fake towards Yozo's father. Why? Because every time the servants and his father interact with each other, they be acting all nice and pleasant, the servants. Yet, right after Yozo's father off to work, they be talking shit about his father. So yeah, that's where Yozo starts to wonder, why do people like to pretend? And he started to think that humans do wear their own masks. And this was also beginning of his clowning phase. For me, it's a sad fact knowing that Yozo has entered his clowning phase ever since he was just a kid. We all have our own clowning phase, aren't we? So, long story short, in his first year of college, Yozo met this problematic friend that I've mentioned before who made Yozo's sanity getting worse. His name is Haruki. Haruki is an alcoholic, women's body craver, dumb guy who uses Yozo's parents' money to get drunk. Haruki introduces Yozo to the night world where the only thing you have to do is having fun. Having a great companion, great women with a great body, and a drink. This event happened for as long as I can remember, and it turned Yozo into the same person as Haruki. Nonetheless, not the same in terms of personality, but the addiction of craving women and being an alcoholic. Every woman Yozo met, he finally met Tsuneko, the very first woman that he fell in love with. They got close and they be sharing things about life to the point where they both have a similarity, and the similarity that they had was a suicidal thoughts they both have. And they decided to attempt a suicide together into the sea at Kamakura. They drowned themselves there, yet Yozo got rescued and survived from his first suicide attempt, but Tsuneko died. And after his family hears about this news, he gets disowned by them and is and he never allowed to return home. With no one and nowhere to go, he turns to a family friend named Flatfish, where he lives most of his early adulthood as a shut-in. Moreover, it came to the point where Yozo felt bored by living with Flatfish after 2 years living together. He finally decided to run away from him and Flatfish's house. Turns out Yozo got back to Haruki's crib and started bonding again with him. And then here, he met another woman named Shizuko, aka Madam. She is a journalist and she once married. Her husband has died, and she is currently living with her 5-year-old daughter named Shigeko. And they live together with Madam's daughter, and there's come to this phase where he sees himself as an obstacle for their happiness, for both Tsuneko and Shigeko happiness. Even though it was clear the women loved him, which is Tsuneko. One day after he spent the day drinking, he come home and see how happy Tsuneko and Shigeko was. And then this leads him to once again running away because I feel like a burden here. What's the use of me being here? Nothing. I think I should run away. That's what Yozo think that time. Not to beat about the bush, after being a freelance comic writer, Yozo met Yoshiko, a 17-year-old girl who worked in a convenience store, who get closer to him each and every time Yozo went to the convenience store, just to get drunk, of course. And Yoshiko started to care about him and told him to stop drinking, to stop being an alcoholic. And it came to the scene where Yozo asked her to marry him on the condition that Yozo has to stop drinking alcohol. And then she said yes, and he agreed. He agreed to stop being an alcoholic, or at least stop drinking for a while. And then they married. Happily, they lived together and being so in love. And this came to the part where I hate the most. And with the person that I hate the most too, the audacity that Haruki has to visit and reunited with the mentally stable and now is living his best life, which is Yozo, is sickening. I hate the fact that Haruki always tried to go back to Yozo, to use him, to use his money, to consider him as his drinking companion. And this is the part where Haruki visited Yozo's current crib. Briefly, the most triggered thing happened while they were about to have dinner together. Yoshiko, Haruki, and Yozo. And then when Yoshiko was cooking downstairs while Horiki and Yozo doing their live update upstairs. And then suddenly, when they want to go back to the downstairs, Horiki first saw Yoshiko was being raped by a guy who also likes to go to the convenience store that Yoshiko was once worked in. And then the stupid part for me is that, from the scene, is that Horiki was the first ever person who saw the scene occurring. Yet, instead of perhaps punching the rapist in the face towards his actions and ask Yozo to not to see this scene, because we all knew that it could break his mental state, which is Yozo, Horiki just stand there and let Yozo saw that scene. It literally breaks Yozo's heart watching that scene. I can't imagine the broken pieces that Yozo has tried to fix is now broken again. The love of his life is being raped. The guy who he considered as his one and only friend did nothing but standing and watching that scene. And this is the trigger where he starts drinking again, and Yozo became distant with his wife because of that event that happened. And then this leads to her getting raped by a man that Yozo drew comics for. Another plot twist, yes. And instead of seeking for justice, Yoshiko considered her as a victim. Very dramatically tragic. This is Yozo's true breaking point as his alcoholism only got worse, and then he even got addicted to morphine. Flatfish finds him along with Horiki, and when he found out, he decided to put Yozo in some kind of a mental institution, And after spending time in the mental institute and realizing that he is a social outcast, Yozo becomes completely broken. He is 27 when he is finally released, and despite being only his late 20s, he appeared to be at least 50. Rather than attempting to reintegrate into society, his family sends him to live with a servant in a remote, dilapidated house. He depressingly spent his days of living there and eventually died there. Well, that's basically it from the story, and now I'm going to tell you what is the moral story that I've learned from this story. Well, if you started to feel like being abused, both physically and emotionally or verbally, and started to question the existence of yourself because of that, you better go to a therapist immediately, because we never know if that little thing that may seem simple could drive us into a bigger and heavier tragedy of our life. And hey guys, sorry, I wasn't finished. I was running out of storage on my phone. So as a closing, I truly recommend this book to you guys. Why? Because as you guys can see, I annotate a lot here. They have lots of good quote that you could possibly post on your Instagram for your content on Instagram, and there are parts where you can actually learn about human being, like the reality out there that you perhaps never even know about it, and you can see lots of scenes that made your jaw drop here. And yeah, I'll give this book a 5 out of 5, and I must say this is literally the best book among 8 books that I've read in this semester. And one more thing, this is the best of the best thing of this video right here. So a lot of people, especially the readers that have read this book, do believe that Osamu Dazai is actually Obayozo. Why? Because right after Osamu Dazai finished publishing or finished writing this book, I forgot, he drowned himself too. That's not. Okay, guys. I hope you guys liked my storytelling video, and don't forget to give this video a like, comment this video down below, and share this video to your friends, because it really will make my day and it means that you support me. So see you guys on my next one. Bye.